In this video I want to talk about photosynthesis and cellular respiration, including Krebs cycle and Kelvin cycle. So for centuries already humans know that under sunlight plants use water and carbon dioxide to produce glucose, and the waste product would be in this reaction oxygen. So it's again like here, 6 molecules of CO2, carbon dioxide, reacts with 6 molecules of water, and use solar energy, and in this process of photosynthesis, one molecule of glucose is created and 6 molecules of oxygen. Okay, and photosynthesis and cellular respiration in plant cells, they are going in organelles. One name organelle is chloroplast, another organelle is mitochondrion, if it is one. So, what is interesting, again, if we pay attention at first to cellular respiration as a process of breaking down complex organic compounds and producing energy in the form of ADP, adenosine triphosphate molecules, ATP, here ATP molecules. So we have to consider that in cells, this cellular respiration can go different ways. One way is, so first glucose gets to the cytoplasm of the cell, and in process glucolysis, it is converted to pyruvic acid or pyruvate. Okay, pyruvate, and then a pyruvate can, through fermentation, go to lactate and go outside of the cell and to the intercellular space. Extracellular space, or it can, this pyruvate can be used in mitochondria and to produce energy already with oxygen. If we have enough oxygen, then mitochondria can produce energy, much more energy than it is produced in glycolysis. So here anaerobic respiration, just example, so that glucose go to the glucolysis reaction and produce lactic acid, and the amount of energy 150 kilojoule per mole. And glucose can go alcoholic through alcoholic fermentation, but not in every cell, not in animals, in plants, mostly in yeast and some others single cellular organism. But energy produced here a little bit more, 210 kilojoule per mole. Okay, then, but most efficient way to produce energy is in aerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration, as I said, it goes in the mitochondria. So first step is glycolysis. Glycolysis, when glucose is gets converted to pyruvic acid, and with release of 2 molecules of energy, ATP, and then it goes to the mitochondria, and in form of acetyl coenzyme, acetyl CoA, and then it gets oxidized to CO2 and water in steps, and in the so-called Krebs cycle or citric acid cycle, with participation of oxygen. This is a relatively slow process, but very efficient. So, if you think this knowledge is not important for you, it is just, I will not help you in your life, it is not so. It's actually, the deeper you go to the biology and this and the biochemical reactions, the better you know how your body functioning. And for example, it is already a long time ago known that there is so-called Warburg effect. Warburg effect, it is that the effect is such that cancer cells, together also infected cells, cells infected by virus, and also some so-called zombie cells, I will not go to this part too deep, but okay, like infected cells and cancer cells, they use aerobic glycolysis. And don't use mitochondria to produce energy, but they go to aerobic glycolysis because it goes very, very quick, and it is producing enough of these energy molecules, ATP and NADH. Okay, then oxygen, even if oxygen present for cancer cells, they are super active, and to they need energy quick and in large amounts, so they go to anaerobic. They go on. So pardon, they go the same way like anaerobic, so that glucose mostly go to pyruvic acid, to pyruvate, and then to lactate. And 85% of all glucose goes this way. Only small portion, like 5%, is oxidized in aerobic glycolysis, and this is anaerobic glycolysis, this is aerobic glycolysis. So, and glycolysis it goes all in presence of oxygen or without presence of oxygen, this or that way. But again, cancer cells are super active to produce lactic acid and to go to this anaerobic way. Anaerobic in normal cells, they go to anaerobic glycolysis, which is glucose converted to pyruvic acid, pyruvate, and then to lactic acid, lactate, and then it is gives only 2 molecules of ATP, and it is only if there is no oxygen is present, and in some organs, like in human eye, it also can go such direction. But mostly energy is in multicellular organism, including plants and animals, is produced in the oxidative phosphorylation, or in so-called 3-citric acid citric acid cycle, or another name Krebs cycle. So it goes with the help of mitochondrion here, and here it is produced 36 molecules of ATP in comparison with 2 molecules of ATP in anaerobic glycolysis. So oxidative phosphorylation is much more efficient for the cells. So cells don't need too much energy, but I mean they need energy, but it is not they are not overactive, and they go this normal way. So it is, what is the conclusion actually? That you see here the reactant is glucose. Glucose is getting converted to pyruvic acid and lactate. But we know that also not only glucose can be used as a source of energy, but also fatty acids. And fatty acids cannot go to this process. They should be oxidized inside mitochondria. So easy way, in conclusion, it's quite easy, and I know why medical professionals don't use it, because maybe cancer treatment of cancer is a huge market and they're very expensive. But instead of curing cancer, just buying telling people to stop consumption of carbohydrates at all, zero carbohydrates, especially sugar. And then cancer cells just don't have enough food, and they just die out. And source of energy in this case should be fat, animal fat, not so-called vegetable oils, but animal fat, or saturated fat like coconut oil, and monounsaturated fat like avocado oil and olive oil. But all these other vegetable oils are actually cannot be used. They are toxic for our body, and they are as they are toxic, they actually produce cancer and tumors. Tumor is growing. Okay, as I said, fatty acids they cannot go to this glycolysis. Instead, they have to be broken down in the process of so-called beta oxidation, and which takes place in the matrix of the mitochondria. So it is inside the mitochondria, and in this beta oxidation, the fatty acids are broken to series of 2 carbon units that combine with coenzyme A, forming acetyl coenzyme A, and then they are entering Krebs cycle or citric acid cycle. And then you see how many steps here, how this acetyl coenzyme can go and can in steps can go through every cycle. So with producing citric acid is either citric acid and alpha glutaric acid, etc., etc., etc. So again, if you know this process, you can save money actually, because for example, there were some quite aggressive advertisement that consumption of alpha ketoglutarate or salts of this acid can rejuvenate body. And the supplements was very expensive, and for per day people should pay maybe $5 for those 2 gram only of this alpha ketoglutarate, calcium salt of this acid. But instead, if you a little bit more advanced knowledge in this chemistry, then you know that citric acid will work the same. Actually, it's much better. Citric acid or lemon juice is much better for health, and I would recommend to everybody to drink at least half glass of lemon juice, or otherwise to use citric acid in maybe 5-10 gram per day, and drink this lemon juice or solution of the citric acid, because this really go and helps to detoxify our body. Is a ketoglutaric acid, it does not work so, and unfortunately, so it was just a dishonest advertisement. But okay, so you see that again, knowledge of some chemistry can give you a hint how to improve your body, how to remove toxins from your body, etc. Okay. It is already accepted that that ancient anaerobic prokaryote cells, they didn't have the chloroplast, they didn't have mitochondrion inside. They were getting energy in anaerobic process, so like glucose, or was getting converted to pyruvic acid, and pyruvic acid to lactic acid, etc. So with this was not very efficient, but in the situation when in atmosphere of our planet there was only a small percentage of oxygen, it was working for a while. But then as this bacteria started, photosynthetic bacteria started to multiply, and the atmosphere of our planet changed to have high concentration of oxygen, then what we got that aerobic process, aerobic aerobic way to produce energy became more efficient, and then there was a change. And then somehow this anaerobic prokaryotic cells, they got inside bacteria, aerobic bacteria. This bacteria was getting energy by oxidation of nutrients with oxygen, and somehow some symbiotic relation was established, and then we have inside this mitochondrion, and mitochondrion has own DNA, the same like all bacteria, the same like all eukaryotes cell have, and these are animal, fungi, and other for example, non-plant like protists, so small organisms, they have such structure with mitochondrion. Mitochondrion is to get energy by oxidation of nutrients. And the next step somehow was the symbiotic relation with photosynthetic bacteria, and these photosynthetic bacteria were able to produce glucose and in these other nutrients from solar light, CO2, and water. So this we got eventually plants and plant-like protists. Okay, so plant-like small organisms, but mostly plants. Okay, you see that actually plants are more developed, more advanced than animal cells, more advanced because they have both chloroplast and they have both the mitochondria. Okay, let's go a little bit deeper in the photosynthesis, because now it is really very interesting process and very interesting subject. The process of photosynthesis includes light reactions and Kelvin cycle. You see, so they have so-called light reactions and some other reactions which we can call dark reactions, or better to call Kelvin cycle. And what is happening? Light is in these light reactions, energy molecules ATP and enzyme NADPH are produced. They have energy. They used inside the cells like energy, and they participate in the Calvin cycle by breaking CO2 and producing glucose and producing CO2. CO2 gets inside, and we are getting glucose and oxygen. Oxygen is the waste product of this reaction. And of course, there is recycling of the NADP and NDP. So ATP gets converted to ADP and with the loss of energy, and NADPH gets converted to NADP plus, also with release of energy. Okay, let's go next. So here the structure of chloroplast is presented. You see that it is not so simple. It has outer membrane, it has inner membrane, it has inner membrane, it has some intermembrane space, and inside it is filled with stroma. Stroma, it is liquid. It is some liquid, and in this liquid we have thylakoid. It is the membrane membrane. The thylakoids are membrane-bound compartments inside chloroplast and cyanobacteria. Thylakoids are sites of light reactions. So we have light reactions in the thylakoid. Okay, these thylakoids mostly they are arranged in some stack, and the stack is the stack of the thylakoids has special name, granum stack of thylakoids. And as I said, it has outer membrane, inner membrane, and stroma inside, liquid stroma. Okay, so it's the same like here. Okay, go next. All light reactions, so we have separation. There are light reactions, there are Kelvin cycle. Light reactions are happening in the membrane of these thylakoids. In the membrane, it is from phospholipids, and so it is lipids inside, this phosphoric ends, hydrophilic ends outside, and here, and we have lumen, some liquid inside, and we have stroma, liquid outside, and we have light coming absorbed by pigment of this chlorophyll, and we have number of reactions which are named like electron transfer pathway or something. I don't know. It's sometimes they call electron transfer, but actually it is some not free electrons. It is some substances, but we just names of these substances quite complicated. So they have some short version like P sub Q, P sub C, F sub D. But okay, but whatever. We have light coming to the this protein, and there are reactions. First reaction goes, sounds interesting enough. First reaction goes to photosystem 2, not 1 but 2. Somehow the order is a little bit strange. Okay, it goes to 2, and with the release of energy and in form of like here it is like excited electrons, here it is some substances. They migrate along the membrane to another to photosystem 1, and again with light, other reaction go further, and then it gets to another protein which is producing NADP molecule, which is the energy molecule, and then another also have protein which is producing ATP, or name ATP synthase. Okay, so it is producing ATP from ADP and connecting a phosphoric group, and then okay, so and then this is stroma, this is lumen. Okay, stroma lumen. And we have stacks of these thylakoid structures, stacks. Okay, let's go next. As I said, another part of the photosynthesis is so-called Kelvin cycle. Kelvin cycle is producing sugars, glucose. These sugars are building blocks of other carbohydrates as well as maybe other molecules necessary for cells, including lipids, and like maybe proteins, amino acids. So this Kelvin cycle was discovered not so long ago. It's about 60 years ago. The first discovery was in America, but scientist named Kelvin. And you see here some schematically represented the way of reactions. It has like 4 stages, but here it's only 3 presented, 4 stages. But we see how this enzyme, this is a relatively simple chemical substance. It works as enzyme, and how it converts CO2 and how the molecules are changed inside. So we will not go much in details, but first, again, what we have to remember, this enzyme, or relatively small 5-carbon molecule, is with name ribulose biphosphate. It's common to use only abbreviation IUBP, and this is its chemical composition. As you see, it's not so complicated. But what is interesting, this IUBP is not stable and can be broken to this 3-phosphate glycerate and 2-phosphate glycerate. Okay, it can be broken, and it is actually a way to produce these molecules, carbohydrates molecules. And to produce one glucose molecule, you have to 6 times to repeat this Kelvin cycle 6 times. Every cycle gets 1 molecule of carbon added to the carbohydrates as a product. Okay, here we have again chemical composition of this enzyme, and the ATP molecule here it is presented. So we have this ribose and the sugar molecule, and here it is the adenosine, and here it is 3 phosphorus groups. So ATP, adenosine, triphosphate groups, and this pentose is not counted. Okay, let's look here. We have also to mind that that in Krebs cycle, it is production of energy by burning in oxygen glucose and fatty acids and even amino acids. So-called NAD plus is used, and you see chemical composition of it. It is like this. Okay, and then they are different only with this phosphate group. Nuclear NAD. Okay, this is also phosphoric groups. This is pentose. This is adenosine. Okay, adenosine is here, and adenosine is here, and this is nuclear. This is actually I forgot name. Sorry. Nicotinamide. This is nicotinamide. This is nicotinamide. This is adenosine. This is 2 groups of pentose. This is 2 groups of phosphates. Okay, let's go next. Kelvin cycle. It has, as I said, 4 main steps, and energy to this sugar-generated process is provided by light reactions from the first half of this photosynthesis process. So it is provided by molecules of ATP and NADP. Okay, H or plus, it depends on what stage it is. Okay, so what we have this fixation of carbon, one atom of carbon, and it gets so it gets further converted to two molecules G3P in step. So you see this RUBC gets one molecule of one carbon atom is added, and we have 3 carbon molecules with name 3PCA, and then what is happening next? 3P, not C, PGA, and this 3PGA converted to G3P. Okay, it's a little bit mind-boggling, so to remember this, but okay, whatever. We have always internet available, we can check always. And then you see with ATP molecules and also with other enzyme like NADPH, we are getting energy, and this G3P gets converted slowly to carbohydrates. As I said, 6 times the cycle should be repeated to produce one molecule of glucose. Okay, here again, and this is some stage which is sometimes not counted, regeneration stage. And it is repeating as long as ATP molecules and also the CO2 is available. It runs, and CO2 and water also necessary. Okay, actually this Kelvin cycle is like not so much understood, and intensive research is going just right now. And number of actually it's all this, the structure of this Kelvin cycle get more and more sophisticated. We yet don't understand completely how it works, and number of enzymes which are involved in this process are mind-boggling. It is like I saw a presentation of the scientist with the recent achievement. It is mind-boggling. It is it is so complicated. So it's, but okay. Again, it shows that nature is not designed not easy. And if you tell me that evolution, that it was spontaneously evolved from a single cellular organism, from nothing, from inorganic matter to living organism, it evolved spontaneously with no driving force. I just cannot understand it. Again, I am scientist, but I know quite a lot about quantum physics and the role of humans, and I know how humans change the world just by own presence, and that our intellect is quite important too. And we are changing the world, also the real world, with our intellect. So all this technology, all this knowledge, science is changing the world. We are getting more and more tools in our hands to change the world. And again, the deeper we go to these biochemical reactions, the more I think this is some act of creation. It cannot be evolved spontaneously. It just cannot be, because it is again so complicated and so many things are working, so that it is not by adding 1 or 2 elements. It is combination of elements in special ratio and special conditions. So its life is so complicated actual phenomena. Okay, next what we will discuss, it is that we know that already the most, almost 85% of all existing plants are so-called C3 plants. And then we have some number of C4 plants and CAM plants. Okay, and the difference is such that the C3 plants are not so efficient in use in the production of this glucose, because if day is hot and dry, then stromata is closed, and leaves don't get enough of CO2, and stromata is closed because not to lose water. Water is also important reactant. And then during the hot and during the drought, during the hot and dry day, photosynthesis is not going well, and instead I will go in the next slides. Other process is going actually, and in C4 plants this process go much more efficient because it goes, and the CO2 at first stage, it is stored in form of malic acid, and in some special cells. And as it is stored, then then this Kelvin cycle can work at high concentration of CO2, and if it is day is hot, it also works. So the process of glucose and carbohydrates creation is much more efficient, and then that's okay. You know what plants are? This is the corn and sugar cane and other stuff. And CIM plants, they grow in drought, in the dry areas, hot and dry areas, and then they separate this conversion of CO2 to glucose in time. So the night time they are storing CO2 in form of this malic acid, and then during the daytime they use the stored CO2 or carbon in the Kelvin cycle, and they grow. But this okay. Okay, here difference between C3 and C4 points are presented. So you see here we have that carbon dioxide gets inside, oxygen gets out, water also can be evaporated, and if day is hot and dry, then we're losing water, but we need the water for photosynthesis, for light reactions, in the photosynthesis. And C4 plants, like corn, it is using so-called special cells, and it is storing carbon dioxide as malic acid inside. Because it is stored, it can be this enzyme RUBC work more efficiently, Otherwise, C3 plants, they cannot work in the situation when stromata is closed. Okay, we have here this enzyme RA by UCO. This enzyme, it is main enzyme which is participating in the process of photosynthesis. Yes, as I said, the problem, if it works very well at high concentration of CO2, it works very well, yes, it's a high concentration of CO2 and low concentration of oxygen. But if stromata is closed, then oxygen accumulates inside, and if concentration of oxygen too high, then another process starts. It is photorespiration. So Kelvin cycle and photorespirations are different. Photorespiration, we have that it goes opposite direction. So it is not converting CO2 to glucose. It is actually breaking down the glucose to CO2 and water. So it is, again, it is waste product, it is wasteful pathway. It is competes with Kelvin cycle if the stromata is closed, and stromata is automatically closed in C3 plants if it is dry and very hot day. Okay, that's photorespiration occurs in peroxysomes. It is another organelle, so it is not in the chloroplast, but it is initiated in the chloroplast. So peroxysomes, it is other organelles. And photorespiration is a process which involves loss of fixed carbon, so these carbohydrates which are produced by Kelvin cycle, and then with energy from light reactions, and then it is converted to this fixed carbon to CO2 in plants in the presence of light. So it is, And this photorespiration also people call sometimes C2 process. Okay, okay, C2. But C3 photosynthesis produces 3 carbon compound in Kelvin cycle, and C4 photosynthesis makes intermediate 4 carbon compound, which is malic acid, and then this malic acid splits into 3 carbon compound for the Kelvin cycle, and then this is the way to store for our CO2, so that high concentration of CO2 can be worked, and it is not much disturbed by high concentration of oxygen. Okay, so this meso fuel cells, they shield this other organelle, they shield the chloroplast, so that high concentration of oxygen is not much disturbing the process of this Kelvin cycle. Kelvin cycle goes quite relatively efficient. Okay, then plants CAM, they use sunlight during the day and fix carbon dioxide molecules at night. So at night they produce this malic acid molecules, and then they use this CO2 during the daytime in the situation when stromata are closed. Stromata are closed, so concentration of oxygen may be higher, but these cells protect, surround the chloroplast, and then they create such environment that the Kelvin cycle can go. Okay, that's all. It's again a quite complicated subject. I believe I have to make more videos, and also I encourage you to watch from YouTube. There are quite many videos explaining this process of photosynthesis and Kelvin cycle, and difference between C3, C4, and CAM plants, and how the photosynthesis is different in these groups of plants. And also about maybe there are some ideas how to genetically change like rice, C3 plants like rice and wheat, and to make them and adapt them to grow in tropical conditions, and to adapt them, and so that they will be C4 plants. And as C4 plants, they can potentially, of course it's only potentially, it's only idea, potentially they can produce more glucose and more grain. Yeah, so it's just some ideas, because if population of the earth is growing, then we need more food, or otherwise there can be process like depopulation, you know. Okay, so you also decide what to do with this. And as I said, all the information what we are getting from medical professionals, it is quite strange. For example, especially for Warburg effect, in Warburg effect and many other situations, they demonstrate us that glucose is toxic, that humans were not evolved to use glucose as a source of energy. Glucose is very toxic. When we are getting from carbohydrates glucose to our blood, then pancreas secretes a lot of this insulin to give a command to cells that to remove this very toxic glucose from bloodstream and convert it to fat. Also, that conversion of glucose is fat is happening if your body is oversaturated by toxins. And oversaturation of toxins may happen because you eat not properly. Yeah, like you eat carbohydrates together with proteins. And in another my movie about digestion, I explained that proteins need a very acidic environment to be digested, and carbohydrates need alkaline environment, and then they cannot be digested if you consume it together. You have to separate them in time. To digest proteins, you need 3 hours at least. Also, you can estimate how you can eat. And maybe a very interesting way to follow carnivore diet. It is like our ancestors were in Ice Age. They were eating animal products, only animal products, or even 100 years ago, or even 60 years ago, in country areas, maybe 60 years not okay, but 100 years ago for sure, people mostly lived in countryside, and every family in Europe had a cow, and they, during winter time, they were drinking milk. They were eating cheese. And how they produced milk? Because the cows were giving them milk, and milk was the food for humans for many thousand years. And if you travel to Germany, you will see that old German houses with such design that cows were not only used to produce food for winter time, they were used for heating. Indeed. So cows, it is big animal. It is producing a lot of heat, not only methane, okay, but also a lot of heat. And then all the house were also organized that cows were at ground floor, and above the cows were living area for humans. So humans were drinking milk, and they were living in relatively warm conditions, and walls were from stones and very, very, very thick. So it is, again, it was for cows, and for humans it was, yeah, symbiotic relations, I would say. Now these medical professionals are talking us about to kill all cows and to kill all cows, and because they are farting. Wow, interesting. So cars, and again, in production of electrical motors, for example, electrical cars, much more CO2 released to atmosphere than in all service time of diesel engine, or that's cars with a diesel engine. And yet again, this such it's people claiming that we have to stop burning of natural fuel. Natural, I call it natural, not it's like gas, oil and coal. The natural fuel. They are not fossil fuels. They are not fossils. It is natural. We have so much carbon inside our planet, the same as in space, the same in other planets. So it is, yeah. So what I say, science became propaganda. But again, you have an option to go deep into this biology, and your life depends on the biology. By understanding of this cellular respiration, for example, you can understand how to avoid cancer development. So many young people already suffer from cancer. Even kids 5 years old, they get cancer nowadays. Why it is happening? Again, it is a long story, but mostly because they eat a lot of sugar, a lot of carbohydrates, and this diet makes them sick. It is, again, glucose is toxic substance. Whatever the medical professionals tell you that all your diet should be based on glucose and carbohydrates and these grains, yeah, okay, up to you. It's up to you. You decide. If you have critical mind and you have some knowledge, you will decide for yourself what food is healthy, and how to work with this Krebs cycle, and how to improve efficiency of Krebs cycle. For example, to use more citric acid and lemon juice in your food, and then that's about photosynthesis. Again, I am not against that some genetical modification of some C3 plants to grow in tropical conditions and to be C4 molecules. But I would say a very good way to produce more food, it is to grow mushrooms. So because if like sugarcane is used to produce sugar, okay, that's okay. But then we have cellulose, a lot of cellulose which is of no use, people burn it. But we can produce mushrooms from this cellulose. And I personally, I did it. So I was growing mushrooms, and it is delicious food, very healthy. And so I am not strictly follow carnivore diet. I have some some more nutrients which I consume and which I enjoy. Okay, so it's again important. Please remember that all these names, thyroids, for example, and it sounds strange. And again, you have like stroma inside. Yeah, stroma and stromata. What is what? Stroma is liquid inside the chloroplast. Stromata is this opening in the leaves that regulate. Stromata is here, and they have guard cells which control the opening of the stromata. Again, biology is quite exciting subject, and even if you will not work in medical care and areas related to biology, just remember, this century is going to be an age of biotechnologies. Biotechnologies will develop incredibly quick. So it is again very useful for anybody to understand how this biology works. Of course, it again, to understand all this Kelvin-Benson cycle with all these enzymes and all these chemicals inside it, it is so difficult. Again, people not yet understand how it works, how we can control it, how we can improve it. But yet, okay, everything goes in steps, and at least understanding that difference between photorespiration, Kelvin cycle, and cell respiration with Krebs cycle, it is very helpful for your body and for your wellness and your health, etc. Okay, that's all. Thank you for your time.